What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV, Demolition version, episode 2. Looks like we're in the second, I guess even third day of this beautiful red cascade of death. And yeah, I mean, it's great to be here, great to be alive. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new here. If you're not new here, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get this party started. All right, so you can see I'm looking at Bitcoin right now, and you can see this chart looks a little torn up. I drew a lot of stuff on here. I'll explain what's going on. It's actually not that complicated. I want to spend most of the time actually talking about trading and psychology around trading. Even if you are a buy and hold long-term, give me an index fund, I'll call you in 20 years person, I think you'll still find value out of this because there's a lot of psychology that goes on in these markets, definitely in crypto, but this is, as I learn more and more about trading, I see this. And as you guys know, right around, I would say mid-January, my goal was to learn not only about technical analysis, but to learn how to trade. I think that is a really good lifelong skill. It's something I've always wanted to learn how to do. And so I've just been learning a lot about this and getting involved in not necessarily day trading, but just how it works. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about things like BitMEX futures, which if you don't know is a highly leveraged margin account trading platform, which I'll talk about in a second. We're talking about some news with Winklevoss twins, which is great for Gemini and also potential trading opportunity that you can start to leverage. Wisdom of the crowds, and then some news on the CFTC. So let's just dive in. If you're listening on the podcast, I have the Bitcoin chart open. This is Coinbase. Again, like yesterday, I would use Bitfinex moving forward, except I've already got these lines drawn here. So moving forward, I'll try to switch over because they have better volume than Coinbase's chart, as you guys pointed out. Thanks for that. And you can see here, we're on the daily. I'm just going to zoom in because this is one of those situations where it actually does help to look at a shorter time frame because things are just moving so quickly. So yesterday, we talked about a big dump happening, right? And yesterday we saw all this chop go down. And then this morning, really, I would say 2 or 3 hours ago, we saw a second dump that happened. And it's not entirely clear what this was, in my opinion, which we'll talk about in a second. I think it's just left over from this existing sell-off. And this interim period, basically that's 24 hours, was really just a way for traders to clear out the books as best they can, to really consolidate, get people out that shouldn't have been in there in the first place. We continued, and then we're going to see that again for the most part, pending no other big external things happening. And that's always the big asterisk in crypto, but I would say in anything. Now you can see this yellow line that I drew. This is representative of previous resistance. This is the same one that we looked at yesterday. This is also touching on support. The resistance is really where you always want to look, but this support can give you an idea. And you can see that that's not only where we crossed over, it's where the volume spiked, and it's where we're hovering around right now. So we're doing a little bit of price discovery. Now, as you scroll back, you can see on this orange bar, I guess you could kind of make a case either way. But if you go all the way back to the bull run, which we're not going to do right now, you can make a case that this orange is really where the candles got all the way down. I guess it depends on which time frame you're looking at. So if we switch over to the 4 hour and zoom in here, you can see that if you do the wicks on the previous resistance, it definitely hit those. If you do the candles, it didn't quite make it. So wick to wick, but not quite to candles, which shows that it was a pretty sizable drop, and that it was clearing out a ton of garbage, right? It was just a lot of people that were trying to do longs and things like that. So what does this mean for you? For the most part, if you are not interested in trading, it just means just keep holding on to your coins, assuming you don't need the money anytime soon. I think that's a huge caveat. Obviously, to a reminder, I'm not a professional. None of this is professional financial advice, so you need to make your own decisions. But realize that I trade a lot more than the average person. I don't trade as much as a professional trader, but I have different goals and I have different short-term and long-term requirements than other people. So whenever I say hold or trade or whatever, This is just for my own experience, and you should do what's right for you. This should be seen as a learning experience. So we've got these levels right here. As we see this consolidation over the next few hours or whatever it may be, this next orange line will be a next level of support. So if it does drop with any significant amount of volume, with any significant time frame, hour-long candles or whatever it may be, we should see some support here. If we don't, then you get into this kind of low 8,000s buy zone, which is really when you get into the first bull run resistance levels. That could be a very interesting buy zone. I think we'll see a lot of consolidation around then. And then you can see, as we zoom out, these next support levels, they really just correlate to these big resistance zones. And this could probably be anywhere between 58 and 6,100. I just drew the bottom one because that's where it met support. And then this red bar right around 5,000, 4,900. This is really when you start thinking about going long with margin, or at least I would, in many ways, because below that, I don't think it's going to stay there for very long. But you never know, right? I mean, anything is possible, and that's why you always want to be keeping your eye out. So this is what I'm looking at right now. I've actually had a lot of fun learning about this stuff, and I'm really fascinated with how this is all playing out. And what I want to talk about is this what happened in the last 24 hours, this chop, and what this does for psychology. What I want to do is I want to show you guys what happened this morning on BitMEX and Bitfinex, which are Bitfinex is the biggest margin trading you can do. BitMEX is the highest volume, but it's much higher leverage, meaning that people will bet with more, they could put $10 down and they get $100 worth of buying power. So it can have huge implications. Not necessarily the smartest or the safest thing to do. Definitely not the safest thing to do. But if you know what you're doing, you can make an enormous sum of money. I will say, be cautious. If you are interested in it, go to coinmaster.com/BitMEX. That's my referral link. Again, there's a big asterisk on this. Do not sign up for this service if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're, you have an addictive personality. But anyway, more importantly, here's what happened. So today this dumped, and you can see how it dumped. And whenever time it dumps, I'm looking at the 1 minute, right? And you never look at the 1 minute. It makes no sense unless something happens like this very quickly. And you can see it as it dumps. You get these 1 minute kind of almost 50% retracement bars that just pop up. And within them, you can see all these wicks that shoot up really quickly. What that's trying to do is that as this price drops, you see people starting to lay down short bets to try to ride the whole, ride the momentum of the current trend. But what happens is that the market is going to stop and push it long for literally 30 to 60 seconds sometimes, and it stops out all those shorts, especially if they're on margin. Because if it's short and the price reverses and goes the opposite way too much, you get liquidated by the account. BitMEX would say, listen, you're too far beyond your risk parameters. We are going to liquidate your account, close your order for you. And that frees up a lot of volume for the market to move as such. And that's really what the market does every single time. And so as time goes on, as the steepness clears out or evens out, you start to see a little bit more of these retracements. You start to see the volume start to build, because as the price gets lower, the demand obviously gets higher. And then what happened is that you started to see a really big spike in longs, right? So as we cross this support level, there's probably thousands of traders that are all watching the same support level. They're all watching it a little bit below because they don't want to get stopped out, and started laying down longs. Now, bear in mind, this is Bitfinex's long orders down here. So if you're listening on the podcast, there's two parts of this chart. There's the top part, which is the price action, and the bottom part, which shows a green line, which shows how many long orders are being set up, and a bottom that shows how many short orders are being set up. And this is Bitfinex. The top is BitMEX. I know that they're not the same, but the price action is pretty similar. So that's just why, as an illustrative purposes, all these long orders, all these people that were like, I'm going to bet super long, I'm going to put a lot of leverage on this, a lot of margin on this, orders really started to pile up. And you can see that the price really started to pile up as well. And the shorts really didn't change nearly as much. I mean, they had a little bit of a dip, but you saw a huge increase in the long volume. And as it got to the support, what happened was that many of the people that were trying to short it as hard as they could all got liquidated by this big, what's called a bull trap right here. And the price continued to go down. You see what I'm saying? So there was a lot of pressure coming down. Some people pushed the price back up in order to liquidate a huge amount of people. And then the shorts came back in and liquidated the longs once again because they were trying to time it. They tried to get cute. They pushed the price even further down. And this is just how it goes. I mean, this happens on a micro level. It happens on the macro level. But this is why it's so difficult to try to day trade and try to beat the market, because they've always got more money. There's a great quote on this. It's like the market can remain irrational much longer than you can remain solvent, meaning you're going to run out of money before you win any sort of battle with the market, which is why you need to have a plan going into it. And then as you see this chop go down over the course of the last couple hours, it's just this on repeat, right? It goes up, it gets the shorts clear out the longs clear out the shorts, and it goes back and forth. And the people who know what they're doing are making an absolute killing on this. And the people that don't know what they're doing are giving all their money to the people that are making an absolute killing on this. So you don't want to be that person, which is why when you zoom out, which is why you always want to zoom out if you're ever feeling anxious or uncertain about the future, you zoom out, you realize that this is actually the same thing that's happening on a much bigger scale as well, right? It's just a different time frame. And that's why overall, as you believe in a bull market, that's why you buy on the dips. You buy when everyone's really scared, as it's really low, because that's what the price is going to get you the best bet. And you just do nothing, right? You just stay away from these crazy games. You don't get involved in the insane high risk, high reward type of world. And I say that with a grain of salt. I think that some people do enjoy that thrill. They do enjoy that learning experience. And for those people, go sign up for BitMEX. Go to coinmastery.com/BitMEX. Get an account, try it. But realize it's like going head to head with Olympians and being like, yeah, I can play basketball. Or I'm a skier. I can go there. They will eat your lunch. And sometimes that's what needs to happen for any sort of experience. So you can start off small. But anyway, what does this mean for price, in my opinion? Well, the bigger trend is really where you got to look. So when you look at the 4 hour, I think that it really comes down to where this closes out and where the next bar starts. I don't think any of this really matters, any of the short-term action, because typically when you see this kind of volume, historically, I should say, this that we saw yesterday, these dumps go on for a few days. So if I had to make a guess, I would say that we've got a ways to go, maybe down to 8,000s, give or take, like mid to low 8,000s, if you really wanted to get a really good buy-in. And if we don't stop there, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's what I think. I think we still got some, time to go down, and then the market does its thing, and we go from there. Okay? Again, who knows? I could be completely wrong. Speaking of which, this is the Twitter poll I put out yesterday, where yesterday the price was 97.75. 24 hours, the price of Bitcoin will be 62% of you said higher, 38% lower. I guess this was done at 12:57, so that's in 2 hours, give or take, from now. So we've got a little bit of work to do. It looks like the masses are going to be wrong. So I think that this is always helpful, not just for me, but any of you guys can always keep an eye on this. All right. So I know this is a lot of trading stuff. I know that many of you are not traders, but I think that it is really, really, really helpful to just know how this stuff goes down, even if you're buying long, because it's kind of like how it's like someone who wants to buy Bitcoin and make a ton of money on Bitcoin, but they don't understand blockchain or don't care about blockchain. I think that that's kind of a similar situation where if you don't learn about the tech and learn about money systems and economics and learn about a little bit about macro and learn a little bit about trading and markets and learn about price and psychology, it's hard to be a really successful investor in a massively speculative, highly volatile environment. So that's why I talk about this. This is what I spend most of my time learning about right now on top of the macro, because this is just where the action is. This is where you don't get learning experiences like this very often. And I'm going to take that because I want to get better at this. Anyway, the Winklevoss twins, if you don't know, they went to Harvard with Zuckerberg, and they hired Zuckerberg, blah, blah, blah. Zuckerberg built Facebook. It potentially was their idea. They got a huge settlement, $70 million. They took that $70 million, bought Bitcoin, and then they started Gemini.com, which is one of the biggest exchanges in the United States. They just released a statement in Bloomberg this morning where they talk about how Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and other coins are going to be added to the platform. This is obviously in response to Coinbase adding the index fund. There's pressure. It's great. Competition, all that good stuff. But here's what really matters. You see something like this on the news, and you can look over at the Bitcoin or the Litecoin chart, I should say. And right when this, press release, let's go to the 30-minute. Right when the press release came out, you could see, boom, huge volume spike, because guess what everyone's saying? Hey, look, Litecoin's going to go on Gemini. That's going to be massive for liquidity. So you see this huge spike. Now, meanwhile, you go over to Bitcoin and look in the same chart. You could see that Bitcoin was going way down. It was getting a huge dump right when Litecoin was getting a huge surge. Guess which one is going to win in that situation? Well, you can look at the chart and it can tell you pretty quickly that Bitcoin, the overall market, is going to win. Meaning the news pushed up all this emotional sentiment, drove the price way up, but then reality brought this price way back down to earth. This is a really good thing, like a tip, a hack, whatever you want to call it, to keep in mind. Anytime you see some like amazing news happening that's like, oh my God, they partnered with whoever, like Tesla, who knows, like some coin, and then it goes way up. But if it's in the middle of some massive sell-off, it's coming back down. I mean, that's just the nature of the market we live in, with everything being interconnected. So I thought that was really, really fascinating kind of way you can play the market, and you can wait for this kind of stuff. It's all about timing and know its senses. Lastly, the CFTC commissioner, Giancarlo, he tweeted about this. I saw this article. He is actually he said it would be a really good idea to potentially self-regulate, let cryptocurrency self-regulate. He understands that there's a huge disparity between commodity, security, property. How are cryptocurrencies really being classified from a regulatory standpoint? And he's saying self-regulation. Now, I think that it's important to remember this doesn't mean like it's libertarian, like, hey, you guys figured out, you guys put together a governance protocol and we'll let you be. That's not what he's talking about. But he means is that creating their own agency. So it talks about, a governing body that in their entire role is to govern cryptocurrency. And they call it an SRO, I believe, right? Self-regulatory organization or something. And the idea being that they can then create their own rules, laws, regulations that potentially supersede the other regulations, or at least work in tandem with them to create one clear set. So what this does is that it creates clarity, or at least it'll give clarity to the idea of cryptocurrencies, and it'll remove a lot of the red tape, a lot of the time bureaucracy, all that sort of thing, and hopefully will create a clear framework, and so that people like you and me can We can talk to people. We can point to who we want to be lobbying, what senators we want to be calling, the things like that, to help make sure this sort of policy gets put in place. So overall, I would say that this is good news. You never know what's going to happen as they create new agencies and things like that. And no matter what your thoughts on regulation and government are, I think that we can all agree that simpler is always better when it comes to speed. And I would always encourage that to happen. So I think that, we'll kind of see if this materializes. I think it'd be helpful. And in the meantime, we're gonna sit back and watch what's happening. I think the other piece of news that I didn't put in here because I couldn't verify on Kraken's website, but they sent out an email that said that they're shutting down deposits from a Japanese bank, which is like on the SWIFT system. I wasn't sure how much impact that had on this from a charting standpoint. It probably didn't have much. There was a lot of momentum going into this dump today. But that was the other piece, where it's ironic because this morning SWIFT did a webinar where they talked about how they're doing really great things on blockchain. And then Kraken comes out and says, hey, we're not allowing any sort of deposits from this particular bank. And who knows what that means. But there's a lot going on. And there's a lot of unknowns, regulatory unknowns, right? Banks unknowns, especially as these sort of things all come out. Bittrex starting to release, was it True Token or Trust Token as the new Tether token? So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that none of us know about. And the charts are obviously showing that this uncertainty is, it's not being perceived well right now, but this needed to happen at some point. So we'll see how it goes. I think the last thing I would say, if you are going to sign up for something like BitMEX or Bitfinex or any sort of margin trading, just don't be an idiot. All right, that's it. I'm not anyone's dad here. Just you can get liquidated fast. But if you like liquidating yourself, coinmastery.com/BitMEX. Do it up. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. And rock and roll. Peace out.